Fantastic.
Okay.
So how's everybody doing this evening?
We're
Hi,
good.
Carrie.
We're good over here.
Good. So we have Portsmouth Public Library, we have Newmarket Library, we have Athena Gordon, and we have Jim Marie. We have Jim Marie here as well. We have some homeschool moms that are with us as well as the librarians. And they're gonna look at the projects that we're doing and talk a little bit about the Ferry House tours. I'll wait until 6. I suppose we're gonna have some more people and then we can go through what's in the packet and a little bit more about the Ferry House tours. Have any of the librarians that are here already participated in the Ferry House tours in the past?
I haven't. No.
Nope. This is all new. Okay. All right. So the first time I started participating was in 2007. And I was working with John Forte in the horticulture department. And I did a whole lot of gardening and all sorts of things there. And then I found out about the fairy houses, and being the type of person that I am, I love to make and create and promote things that are involved in nature. So what I did today is I picked up a few things that were just growing outside my apartment. I'm in Portsmouth, and there's always trees, there's always different materials that are available. And I just wanted to show you how easy it is to find things that are just right outside your doorstep in order to work with. And again, I don't want to go too deep into anything until we're ready to begin. Did you have anything that you wanted to say, Deborah, before we get started? Or...
Yeah, you can hear me, right?
Yeah.
Cool. Yes. I did want to take this opportunity to welcome you all here. My name is Deborah Smith, and I happen to be the event planner for the Ferry House tour that's coming up in Portsmouth, September 24th and 25th. And so clearly our outreach today is because you are so influential, all of you who are on this call, through being teachers and librarians and moms in your own rights, and folks who can lead children to really inspire them in this particular way. So we are recording this so that we can share it with folks who could not be with us today. And as Heather very nicely held up the little packet, some of you have your packets already, and some who, if you were a little bit too far away for us to get to on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, yours are headed your way through the interoffice library system. So do expect that you will get a kit as well. So follow along with us. I don't know, Mary Jo, if that, Carrie, did you forward the pieces to the people so they can at least see the handouts that we will be going over? And if they do have those, great. If not, I'm happy to forward them, but please expect that you'll get a kit as well from us. So questions we're going to ask, if you could just hold them for a bit. We'll mute all of you so that this recording is pretty clean for everyone else to listen to at a different time. Or if you'd like to go back to it and say, wait, what did Heather say? How did she say that? How are we presenting that? So without further ado, I'd like to take this whole hour for Heather to go through it and for you to have ample time for questions. So thank you for taking an hour of your time in the evening to do this with us. And with that, I'm very pleased to have you meet and get to know very well Heather Hatada Boyd, who indeed will be affiliated with this year's Ferry House tour, and that she is a teacher. And she is a writer and an author, and she is a really true naturist to really have this align with her principles and our principles of building fairy houses. So that's what we're going to talk about tonight, so that you understand what those principles are and can model them and can share them through some of the books we're going to share in your libraries and in your classrooms, and some of the craft activities, very simple ones that you can share with children to inspire them to participate. So Heather, take it away. I'll mute myself so that you can only hear you. Thank you.
Deborah, one more thing before we get started. Did you want to talk to everybody about where the money goes for the Ferry House tours?
Sure. Yeah. So you know that it's not all going in my pocket. Is that what you mean, Heather? Yes, it's not.
I didn't
Yes,
mean
I
it that
think-
way.
Yes, so all of the really great thing, which is why this is such a great alignment, is that the Fairy House Tour is brought to you by the Friends of the South End. It's been in existence for more than 15 years, had that very unfortunate hiatus because of COVID, but we are back in a very much reinvigorated form, because all of the proceeds go back to the Seacoast area schools and nonprofits. So everything that we make in this weekend goes right back out in the community to support this kind of thinking and growth and education. So you should know, the more you promote it in your libraries, your classrooms, and your homes, the more everyone in the particular area benefits. Thank you for that reminder, Heather, but yes, for that clarity, you should know that.
So it looks like a lot of you haven't participated in the Fairy House tours before. Generally, once a year, all of the families, the teachers, the students, the community members get together and they make natural fairy houses. They're displayed at Strawberry Bank Museum. Depending on which year it is, they may have some at the Langdon House and they may have some in the gardens as well. This year, are we just doing Strawberry Bank, or it's going to be everywhere? Okay, so we're doing all of the locations. So what you'll see is there will be individual houses that are made by families. There's also the artist invitational, and that's where you see the really extravagant larger fairy houses. One of the things that I want to point out is when you're building fairy houses for the Portsmouth Fairy House Tour, it's imperative that you use all natural materials. That is one of the rules that they have. So you aren't going to want to add, anything plastic or ribbon or anything additional to that. It's strictly things that you could collect in nature. One of the things that I like about this is it's a great opportunity for families to be able to get together, or teachers and librarians to take your kids outside and have them do a scavenger hunt. During that scavenger hunt, they may find things like maple seeds. I'll show you what these little guys look like. They also make fantastic fairy wings, as you can imagine. With these, when they're picked green, this is what they look like. I have some that are from last year. They turn kind of a brown and they get a little bit crinkly. Those look like this. The only reason I'm showing you the difference is you can use them for different types of things in your materials. So these are a little bit brown. They're a little bit more crinkly. They're great for painting. So if you wanted to paint a color on it, you would be able to do that. These are the ones that you're going to want to use in your projects for the Portsmouth Fairy House tours. There are also an abundance of acorns right now. This is kind of a bonus thing that I'm going to share with you after we do the crafts. But these little acorns, if you take a drill bit and you drill through this little pointy piece in the bottom, and you drill through another pointy piece, let me take this apart. You can take a toothpick, stick it inside the other end, push these together, and you have the beginnings of a fairy here. Here's two of those little wings that are stuck together. You can take one, put it up this way, take the other one, put it down this way, and then use the stem that you have here to connect it. Now, the only thing that's foreign is that one little piece of wood. And then you have a really cute little fairy. And then if you want, at that point, you could take another stick. This is also from the same tree that these little acorns came from. And you can break them and make little legs and arms, that sort of thing. So part of it is looking at nature, trying to figure out what you have for materials that are already there, and then imagining what they could be. So this is a really good example of a little fairy that you could make that would be all natural, and you could add to your materials. When you're building the fairy houses, and I promise I will get onto the projects that are in the bag in just a second, I just wanted to show you some of the really simple things you could do. All this is just a big tree cookie. We've got some other little tree wedges here. Went out to that same acorn tree where we had the little acorn guy. I left a few on here. I took these. You can add this and start building up your fairy house, as simple as that. and then add some more things around the sides. Just pulled a bunch of leaves off of a branch. You can add those leaves all around the outside of this. And you can see how simple it is to just start taking things that you find and creating another world. I'll show you more of that in a minute, but I just kind of want to get you in that mindset of seeing things a little bit differently than just walking out, there's a tree, here's a squirrel, let's listen to the birds. But if you start engaging, you'll start noticing things, you'll start seeing shapes, you'll start seeing little woodland spirits, so to speak, in the things that are just outside there naturally, like this little guy. All right, in your package, there are a couple of projects. The first two projects, or the first project that I wanted to talk to you about is a simple clothespin fairy. And then the other project that we have is going to be a ribbon stick that we're going to be making a wand. All right. So in this package, if you don't have one now, these are materials I think all of my homeschool moms have used at some point. So what I have is a clothespin, a permanent marker, a template for the fairy wings, a piece of paper for the fairy wings, and also a little drawstring bag. Now, the beauty of these drawstring bags is I think pretty much everyone has a dollar store, a Dollar Tree, a Dollar General, something like a discount store where they are, where you can buy these. That a lot of people use them for wedding favors. And it also makes a fantastic drawstring dress for our fairies. So you can make these as simple or as elaborate as you like. If you have prep time, you can paint from the shoulders up to the neck, any flesh tone that you want. I generally have some that are kind of a nutmeg color, and then I have some that are a little bit lighter color. I represent pretty much every skin tone that you can think of from here up if I do the painting. On the bottom piece, I usually paint that all white. And then I love stripy tights. So a lot of times I'll make little stripes here for little stripy tights. We have our plain clothes pins. And so for all intents and purposes today and for time, this one's going to be a little bit Amish. It'll be natural in painting. And I'll just walk you through the steps of how to make this look like a fairy. So one of the first things I like to do is prep my materials ahead of time. To turn this into a dress for this drawstring, the first thing that I would do is just cut off the very, very smallest bottom section here. All right. And that's going to open it up so that our feet will come through the bottom of the dress when we do use the drawstring for it. I'll just discard that. And so I've got this ready. I've got my little fairy ready. I have my template. Now there's two ways you can do this. If you're someone who needs a template, you may go through the template like this. If you're someone that has made lots of hearts in the past for Valentine's Day, or you're used to cutting, you may fold it in half. And then you can just make a curve here for the top wing, a curve here for the bottom wing. And I like mine a little bit more like dragonflies. So I tend to have them a little bit longer on the bottom and a little bit rounder on top. And then you open that up, and just like old-fashioned paper dolls, you have your wings. So the wings I'm going to set aside right here. Everyone has different ways of making faces. Often the children will make little dots for eyes. So I'm going to do this the way a child would. So we've got our little dot here, a little dot here, and then maybe a smiley face. So there's just our very simple little friend. Another thing that you may do if you have kids that want to have a little bit more detail, you can go ahead and have it slant a little bit and then make eyelashes. It really depends on what kind of kid you have, how this is going to turn out. I have some friends that really like pixie cuts, so they'll just kind of paint the hair on this way and then bring it forward a little bit. In the front, maybe use a little purple, a little green, lots of different colors. It doesn't necessarily all have to be this permanent black. You can use permanent markers in any color. So I'm just going to finish up the back part here. So it's not quite bald all the way around. We'll go add some hair all the way around. And this is really a project that can take a long time or not very much time, depending on whether you simply want to use markers or whether you'd like to do painting. If you have time and you want to do a multi-process project with the kids, you can paint them, let them dry, and then the following day make your faces and add your dresses and your wings. So I've got a fairy here that's ready to get clothed. So all I do now is just open up the top of this, put my fairy in. You want to have usually about to the neck covered with the material, and then just pull the drawstring closed, just like that. It's super simple for a kid to do. If you have a child that has difficulty tying ribbons or bows, this is where an adult may want to intercept. If not, if they can even just tie it like that, not necessarily a bow, but just give it a nice pull, then they're able to be independent and do it on their own. A lot of times that sense of autonomy is really important to children, especially when they're creating. So then give it a second tug. And we've got our fairy with our dress. Then we can pull it up just a little bit and adjust it accordingly, however you want. And then you just add the wings on the back. Now I'm going to show you one of my favorite materials, one of my favorite products that I use to do this for children that have a hard time with glue guns, or maybe they're just not ready to that age for a glue gun. They're called glue dots. They come on a roll similar to tape, and it's literally just a dot of glue. And so if you take this and you press it to the back of your paper and then just pull up, then you'll have a glue dot. I usually put 2 of them. And then just press it to the back of your doll here. Then you've got a little pocket fairy, and I'll bring that up so that you can see. So that's our little pocket fairy. Simple project, really easy for the kids to do, fun for the parents too. And again, they can be just as elaborate or different as you want. The other piece to that too is if you are really into using the natural pieces, I can't recommend these lovely little maple seeds more than this project. It's a great way to be able to incorporate all natural. And it's a fun toy for the kids too. So that was the doll that we made. Again, if you want to use other things as well, wool, you could use wool for hair. I have wool roving that I use. And make little braids. I've done that before with wool roving. Keep in mind that these are not things that you would want to leave out in the wild, because the paper's not fantastic for, you know, the squirrels to eat, and neither is this piece right here. This could be something that an animal could tangle or get choked on. So this is strictly for fun. This is not something to leave behind. This is a take with project. The other project that we're going to be working on, you'll need a stick for. And we were really, really amazingly lucky, or maybe it was just Deb's magic, because Darn Good Yarn sent us these pieces to use. Now, Darn Good Yarn, and if you have a chance, go to darngoodyarn.com. They're really, really fantastic. I've worked with them in the past doing weavings, and this particular company has been extremely generous with gifting 2 libraries. I know they did something with the Portsmouth Library where they had gifted some weaving looms and a class, and all of these beautiful, luscious silks. I'm going to bring this down so you can see how amazing these fabrics are. There's crimson and emerald and gold and all of these just luscious, gorgeous colors for fall. And so what you can do is, again, this is another opportunity for you to be able to go out and do a nature walk with your kid. Okay, I don't know any child that isn't enamored with sticks. and they can be all different shapes, all different sizes. I grabbed some just from a trip that I went to the other day, and this was everything from a magic wand to a little rabbit's walking stick. It's really based on the imagination of the child or the parent that you're with, or the librarian, because I know you guys have fantastic imaginations too. So these are some that I found on my own. This is the one that came with the kit. And I wanted to show you a couple of different things. So these are some great fabrics that we have here. There's just so many good ones. I don't even know where to start. All right, and this is wool. These are all pieces of wool that have been wound together. One of the things that you can do when you're being creative with kids, you can let them select the different pieces. One of the things that I've done in the past is hide these along the area where I am. Like if I'm in a little trail or a little clearing, I'll put all of these, I'll know exactly how many pieces I brought with me. and I know exactly where I've kept them, and then I'll have the kids look for them. While they're looking and they're finding all of these pieces, they get a chance to listen to the birds, feel the wind, notice what the tree bark is like, what the lichen is like, what sort of things that they wouldn't normally take a look at. Is there a snail? Is there a slug? You know, lift up under this log, what's underneath there? Oh, wow, there's a whole ecosystem. So while you're doing all of that, you can pick out a few that you like. I think what I'm going to do is just take a little bit of this red here. And don't be afraid to cut things in your package too, because they were extremely generous with the amount of material that they gave us and the different types of material. So I'm just going to cut this piece here that has blue. And then there's also a piece that has, it's the same piece, but it flows into a red. So I'm going to cut both of those two pieces there. And here is my stick. Just to get started, I will tie a knot at the top of my stick here. It's also a good fine motor activity for kids. A lot of times with there being so much computers and stimulation with tablets, this is a good way for them to be able to use their hands and use their minds. So I have quite a bit of flow on this. I don't know if you can see how long this is. Let me stand up. And I actually did that on purpose. A lot of times kids will really enjoy using the wind as a prop. And so I've made this a little bit long, so we've got these ribbons. If you wanted to, you could split them down the middle here and then have extra ribbons that are hanging from this that they might be able to use. A lot of times they'll sing, they'll dance, they'll do ballet, all sorts of crazy things when they've got something that they can be inspired by. There's also these really cool thin strips. And so what I'm going to do at this point, I've tied this on the top. I want it to go all the way out to the top. So I'm going to take this piece here, and extend it to the end of my wand that I'm making here. And then I have my piece here. I'll tie it. And I'll probably just tie it twice. That should be really enough. What you'll find with silk is that it really holds well when you tie a knot into it. It doesn't have a tendency to pull or slip like some other fabrics. All right, so I've got my 2 knots here. I'm going to fold this over so that you can't see it. And then I'm simply just going to keep wrapping this all the way around my stick. Over and under, all the way around. Now there's a myriad of ways of doing this. I'm just looking at the materials that I have, and this is what I've been inspired to do with my materials. You may have a completely different idea, and I guarantee your children that you're working with will have an extremely different idea of how to do this. And the nice part is there's no really right or wrong answer. It's really up to you how creative you want to be and what you would like to add. This is also one of those props, one of those toys that is fantastic, but you don't want to leave it out in nature. You want to make sure that this is something that you're going to play with and use for years to come. So I've gotten about halfway through and I love the bark that's here. So I'm just going to leave this for bark. Someone else may choose to go on with another color and go all the way to the bottom. For now, I'm going to close this off. I'll show you what it would look like if I was done, and then I'll also show you how to add on that other piece of fabric if you decide you want to add on a piece of fabric. I would tie it off here if I was done, or if I was going to add another, I would tie that piece in right here. And then continue wrapping until I get to the end. And then we can just tie it off at the end here. So there we've got that. And I'll do that twice just to make sure we've got a good secure knot and it's not going to come apart. Again, with the silks, it's usually not a problem. I like to have my things kind of neat and tidy. Not everyone does. So I've got this little piece here. I'm going to fold those over and just start wrapping over them so it becomes part of the wand. Here we go. All right. But if you'd like to have that extra little piece, just leave it out. You don't have to worry about winding over it. So we're just going to keep winding all the way around until we get to a point where we wish to stop. The other piece to this is once the child has had an opportunity to do all of this winding and weaving and tie off the end, that's all you have to do for the end of this is just tie it off. And then it's up to you whether you want to snip it or whether you want to leave that little rough edge. So once again, there's 1 and 2. All right. So I'll show you, lift that up. So now you've got this really cool ribbon wand that can be used to play with in the wind, can also be used for like dancing, because I know a lot of kids like to dance around and wear their fairy costumes during the fairy house tours. So those were the 2 things, and you can see just how much this company donated. So I still have all of this, which means we've probably got enough for a dozen wands really at this point. And I know most of you probably have extra fabric and extra things that you have at home that you might want to use for it as well. So those were the 2 projects.
And Heather, could I just interject? I just wanted to
certainly.
make a point. If when you opened your packets, you saw that there was another option to do that rainbow story, fairy stick, whatever you'd like to call it, appropriate for whatever program you're going to develop. But some of those things that Heather very kindly held up for us could be woven in as you wrap around. So if you wanted a more natural, or you wanted something to go with the story that you're sharing, that's pretty flexible craft to make it easy for really children of all ages, not just the really simple, let me just wrap it around, which is lovely, turns out lovely in the end. I will tell you folks that both of those crafts will be happening at the Fairy House Tour. So we will have independent stations throughout the grounds of Strawberry Bank, John Langdon House, Prescott Park, where those kinds of small craft items, as we say, make it and take it away, because that's so much what children like. And I know that works beautifully in your libraries and your classrooms as well, that they have something that they started, they finished, and they get to take home and said, I make. So I just wanted to make that point as well, that you can do variations of that beautiful stick with just some pretty simple items, which we have provided to you in that kit. Sorry to interrupt you, Heather, but I want to
No. It's the perfect segue into the second stick that I was going to
Oh,
show
great. Sorry.
everyone. No, that's perfect. And so earlier I had shown that I found this piece where I had also found the pieces to make our little fairy guy earlier. And what you can do is simply just take this and you can attach it to your stick here. And we have those pieces of silk. Again, you can take a little piece of silk here. I'm going to bring it over. So there's something that maybe your child found on their walk and they're really excited about the acorns that they found. And so you can tie that on. Doesn't necessarily have to even be silk material. It could be any kind of material, or I use a lot of like jute and hemp. And so if you have that, you can just tie it on simply right there. It's not going anywhere. Just from that the two ties that you did. If you wanted, you could wrap more and do it more of a loose wrap like this. And then that gives you the ability to be able to add more things like, let's see. Here's some more of those maples that we found. So we can just simply set them right on here on top of that area where this is, and then just go around it. And now you've got a much more natural little wand. So just whatever you have, whatever you like to put on it, you can incorporate. And the versatility of this project is really nice. Plus the promotion of getting them out and being able to see and touch and feel and listen and really encompass all of their senses. All right, back to you, Deborah.
So I know you were going to show, do you have some fairy houses there to really zoom in on, or I'd like to kind of segue into the books that are associated with this to share with them, Heather?
Yep. Okay, so the books, let me get the picture of that. So for those of you that have the packet,
yep,
you have the fairy house tour information here. The books that they would like us to take a look at are the Fairy House trilogy. So I don't know if any of you or all of you are familiar with Tracy Kane's books. This seems to be the one that most of the kids have seen before, but there's actually a full trilogy from Tracy Kane's books. Now, what they focus on is really going out in nature and finding natural materials to make natural magical places that inspire imagination. So when you're looking at Tracy Kane Fairy House or Portsmouth Fairy House, Tour Fairy House, you're looking at gathering lots of different items from nature. And we do this throughout the year. So some of the items that you'll gather are pine cones. I'm just going to dump lots of different things here to use as inspiration for yours. So these are pine cones from Strawberry Bank Museum. Every year, without fail, hundreds and hundreds of these little things fall from the trees. That's a big one. Most of them are this small size here. So we prepare ahead of time. So these are all from last year. These are things that I collected last year to use in this year's projects. These are some green maple seeds that I just picked off my tree. You guys saw those earlier. These are the older maple seeds from last year. And I also have moss. So here's some moss. If I can get all of that out there. There's moss and different types of varieties of moss. When you're doing the fairy house tours, you don't have to have all natural moss. You are allowed to use craft moss. But they don't want anything showing as far as glue is concerned or anything like that. It has to look like it's part of the environment, including your base. All of Tracy Kane's books will tell you about that, the fact that it's all natural and you don't want to incorporate anything that could potentially harm wildlife in the area. And you also want to clean up after yourself. So that's important. So these are some materials that you might use. I had talked to you about using tree cookies and wedges just to start out as a base for inspiration. And then it can be as simple as gluing in all of your pine cones. What you want to do is make sure that there is nothing showing that looks like it potentially could be something else. I've seen some people use particle board, and they've used other different materials when they're doing their fairy house building. And it's okay to use all of those when you're building for the Portsmouth Fairy House tours. However, none of it's ever supposed to show. It's all supposed to look like it's part of the environment. And I mention this because this is a really simple way for kids to get started and build things and have it look like it's part of the environment. I'm just going to throw a couple of things over here just so that you can see how a child may be able to just take a few things, add it, and make it their own. So that would be super simple fairy house. As I mentioned, last year would be when I started collecting things. That's when most of the fairy house people have been collecting things. So I'm going to show you a roof on last year's house. And those are all little pieces of pine cones. And you can see everything is dead now at this point. So what would happen this year is all of the dead stuff would get pulled off and this would be repurposed. It takes quite a bit of time to take apart a pine cone and make a roof. So a lot of the participants will reuse something that they used last year and just redecorate it. So for instance, here, the roof will remain. The rest of this will be changed on the bottom. And you can see this one started out as a birdhouse. You can't show any of that when you're doing your fairy house. You have to make sure everything is covered here. This is an old one from last year, and I went through my old boxes. I don't have anything for this year yet because that's actually next weekend's thing that we're going to be doing. So these 3 books that we had mentioned before. Oh, give me a second. It looks like it's. Sorry, I'm having problems with my video right now. Give me just a second.
We see you perfectly.
Okay, I can't see you, and that's all right.
We see you
So the Fairy House trilogy, these are books that you can use to inspire and get everyone interested in the program. Also get them, you know, really into using their imaginations. One of the things that I'll be doing is reading The Fairy Feast. It's a poem that has turned into a story. Everybody got a copy of this. One of the things I'm going to be doing with my Forest Fairy girls is using this as an imaginary template for them to be able to create their own book. So each of these lines will inspire a drawing. And the way that we've set it up is they'll get a piece of paper. First line, it's autumn in New England, that special time of year, where child, beast, and fairy celebrate good cheer. The chipmunks gather pumpkin seeds, the spiders weave their webs, the squirrels dash up and down the trees, the flowers rest their heads. By day, the children gather sticks and shells and leaves and cones, assembling new fairy homes along the cobblestones. Each corner, nook, and cranny is filled with homes for Fae. The children give them shelter to house them all today. The moon shines brightly up above as insects gather near. The time has come for all to share the magic of the year. The lightning bugs light every path. The crickets start to sing. The ladybugs share all their luck, and church bells start to ring. It's 8 o'clock. The chime has struck. The feast will soon begin. The children are all snug in bed. It's time to meet our friends. It goes on further than that. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but the gist of it is they'll read a stanza and then make a picture to go into their own book. So at the end of all of this, they've had an opportunity to listen to the cadence of the story and interpret it in their own imaginative way. So this is going to be part of the Fairy House tour as well. I sent everybody a copy that you could fold, because one of the things that we're going to be doing in my class is fold it in half like so, and then they're going to make a cover for it. And then that way they've got their own little book. And then later on, if they decide they want to go line by line, they may. If they don't, then that's an opportunity for them to be able to make their own small version of the book where they have one picture. Perhaps they just want to do the cover. So that's included in your pack also. And then Good Darn Yarn, the sponsors that gave us those materials to work with, put together a fairy house checklist. That's also in your packet. And the fairy house checklist is a fantastic way for the kids to be able to go out and start exploring and collecting and gathering the things that they need to build their fairy houses and to really get started. So the first thing on the checklist, sticks of varying types, tree bark found on the ground. And it says, please don't pick from the trees, it hurts them. That's really something that's important for the kids to grasp, is that the tree is a living being and we don't want to pull anything off of it. There's a ton of lichen and tree bark and all sorts of things that naturally have fallen, and those are the materials that we would really like for everyone to use. Let's see, small stones or rocks, feathers, if you find some feathers on the ground, moss. When you're gathering moss and when you're gathering these natural materials, I also want to let everyone know that you don't want to pull everything out of one area. The rule of thumb is never take more than 10% of what's in an area. So if you find some really cool Chinese lanterns or some, let's see, Queen Anne's lace, or maybe some goldenrod, anything like that, you want to make sure that you're only taking 10% of what's growing in that area so that it's able to reseed and then grow again the following year. We don't want to mess with any of the ecosystems. There's lots of things that depend on the things that naturally grow here to be able to live and survive. Pine cones and pine needles, again, you can find those all over the ground. And freshly picked flowers, leaves, and ferns. Okay, we have a lot of ferns in this area. If you need to pick some ferns, that's not going to damage our environment or the community. And same with the flowers, but just be mindful when you're picking things like poppies, especially poppies reseed. So if you have poppies, hold on to those seeds and then plant them back in the area where you collected it. And then it sort of brings everything full circle as well.
Heather, I just want to intercept again, is
Sure.
You are holding up the updated version of that checklist. A couple of folks did get the first version, which you might have before you, that says that you can have ribbon and silks and whatever. And as we said at the beginning, those are not acceptable in your house, but they certainly are for the crafts that we can do. So if perchance you got one of the versions that has that at the bottom of your list, we are going to send out after this the updated version that you can use in your classes or distribute at your library for a handy giveaway, which is really great for parents to say, wait, what do I need? Let's go out and do. And it's kind of intended to do it not only as a checklist, but as a scavenger hunt. Go out and do just the things that Heather just said. Don't take more than you need or more than a particular area, but here's a pretty good thing. You go out with a basket, you come back with some of these things in there. You certainly have enough to come back in with enough to start a house in some way. The other thing I want to clarify, I've been monitoring for you, Heather, the chat box of what questions we've been getting. And you very, very kindly showed a beautiful pine cone roof, which no way could you put that together with mud, toothpicks, or whatever, but that indeed there was hot glue that was used. But the key word is that you couldn't see any of that. So, you bringing a house, either for a artist invitational or for a child, we know what glue stick crafts look like, and the strings are all over. That's really not what we're looking for. But clearly some of the folks who do build these very beautiful and extravagant houses that do sit in the middle of gardens, there is some glue that's happening, and we clearly don't want to be pushing that with children, that they have to worry about hot glue and everything else. So just making a little clarity on that. There's things that you can do of varying degrees of complexity is probably what I would say. And what we're promoting here is the simplicity of do the things in nature, the piling, the using of the ties that's the end of a leaf or anything else, is really the way that we're looking to promote. So sorry to interrupt you there.
No, that's perfect. Another thing that I want to point out, especially on the maple, these stems are really strong, and you can use them the same way that you would be able to use twine. So you can always just break it off at the node here and then simply discard the rest of the leaf all the way through to the middle. And then this is something that you could use to tie and secure things with too, if you need to secure and tie without using, something else. But I mentioned the hot glue and all of that because I know some of the parents are submitting houses, or there are family houses where a family will submit. And I didn't want people to think, oh, well, I'm not allowed to do that. As long as it doesn't look like it, and you're leaving it
For
there and
sure.
you're taking it back at the end of the day. And if you've never done this before, there is one thing that I would want to point out to you. While the fairy house tours are up and running, there's beautiful houses everywhere. Approximately 35 minutes after the doors close, there is nothing left. So, and I'm not even kidding. The only part of the area is there's an area where they have like pumpkins and like all the leftover areas where all of the kids build their own little fairy houses. That's where this story came from. I was sitting watching all of the squirrels mow down on all of the pumpkins and the leftover foods and things, which they wouldn't be considered food to anyone else, but there was a lot of really cool natural parts. And all the animals have their own little party with whatever's left over. But the rest of the place, there are no fairy houses. They will tell you if you do not come and remove your house at the end of the day, then it will be thrown in the trash. So there's going to be a lot of work put into these. And I just want to remind you of that because I would really hate for someone to come late and then have their things discarded. Was there anything you wanted to mention about that, or?
No, but we did talk today. I happened to be at Strawberry Bank to do a walkthrough, and if any of you have never been to the beautiful gardens there and at John Langdon, they really are a treasure. And the day will be so filled with just enjoying those grounds, the activities that are on them, looking at the houses children have made in groups and classrooms and friends and families. It's very exciting. And the rather large houses are in prominent places, so you'll be able to find them and they're marked on the maps. So, that's important as well. All of you got the smaller poster. I do have larger posters if you really would like those instead. We can ship them to your libraries or deliver again. Now that I know where all your libraries are, we were the little knights going there last night. I saw so many beautiful libraries. All of you should be so proud of. It's really so heartwarming to know that we're committed to reading, we're committing to learning, and you have beautiful facilities to do that in. So you just sitting here this evening, knowing that you're open to a new idea and a new way of inspiring children through books and through activities and through really interacting with nature is really very exciting for me as well, to be making this come to life. But you really are all of what I'd like to call all the worker bees behind the scene making this happen. So thank you for that. Heather, anything else we wanted to? I just wanted you to know that Tracy's Kane's book does come, the 3 books that were on there does come as a trilogy in one book, or it comes in 3 little books. You decide. I happened to find this at a used bookstore, which was quite amazing, and got all 3 books. And it even has how-tos in here for different times of the year. So while we appreciate that you're going to do something, now potentially to promote Fairy House that's coming here, there's instructions for spring and what to do different in summer and what to do in fall and winter. And I think that's really intriguing too, that this isn't a one-time thing. This is something that you can kind of suspend right through all the seasons and bring to home. And I guess I'll just share, an anecdotal story, Mary Jo, of what happened today in your library and how fabulous it was. I had met with Mary Jo and Carrie last week, and we talked about this program, and they were Johnny on the spot and went and found books and put the books out just today. And they were wiped off the counter faster than a speeding bullet. And even while I was there today, a young dad and his little guy came in and said, "Hey, fairy houses, remember when we built one of those?" And the little guy looked at me and goes, "Wait, did we do that, Dad?" And he goes, "Yeah, remember we did it." And we whipped out the poster, and both the little guy and his dad were so excited that they were coming. We're going to do that again. So just want you to know, please expect you're going to get a great reaction. You're going to have kids be really inspired by this. And And, we really gave you 2 crafts so that we make sure that it really entices girls and boys. This is not all about little fairies and girls want to dress up in tutus. This is about nature. This is about creativity. This is about reading. This is about writing and coloring and creating art. So I want to make sure when I joined this particular team, I really wanted clarity on those elements of a fairy house and not having everybody comes in a tutu and they want wings and they want to. We're encouraging children to come dressed as bugs, as gnomes. They can come as whatever they would like and not just all little fairies with wings and whatever. In fact, I've engaged Prescott Park. They will be selling some things for children, and I've given them a really strong mandate, which was find me things for boys, find me things that will really appeal and get them as excited as girls for the Fairy House tour. So I want you to be able to really embrace that message as well, because it's really important. So houses to be dropped off will be on Friday. So the Fairy House tour is Saturday and Sunday, September 24th and 25th. And houses made by children. Or it could be adults. It just means you're not entering the Artist Invitational. Will all come to us on Friday between 9 a.m. and 12. Can they sneak in afterwards? Yes, we'll be placing houses probably all day. We're just trying to get them there on grounds. The Artist Invitational houses, which maybe we've excited you, or, Heather is going to be making a house and she'll add it to our competition as well, need to come to us on Thursday, because on Thursday we do a reception for all of our volunteers and our sponsors and those who submitted something where they're judged, and there is a reception to say thank you for a job well done and to make this such a special evening. So Artist Invitational things come to us on Thursday. Everyone else who wants to be in, which there are no limits, there is no sign up. You just need to get your house to us so that it can be positioned properly in the right areas. And I did mention to Newmarket today, if you find that you wanted to, individual libraries or classrooms, you want to do a whole bunch, we are happy to put a stake in the ground and say, here's where Newmarket, come see Newmarket Public Library, and they'll all be clustered together. They won't be strewn all around. It's an opportunity for you to get some promo too, to say, here's what we did, and boom, we're all together. So we will be doing that. You would just probably need to tell us, and everything comes through info@fairyhouse.com. Info@fairyhouse.com. Send us there. We have a group. We have 10 houses. We got 5, whatever. We are great. So excited that you are going to be able to do that. So classrooms, teachers, libraries, just tell me, boom, we will have a space designated for your particular area. I know, Heather, you're going to give me some. Good.
There's just one thing I wanted to clarify with the drop off between 9 and 12. I want people to know that you're not just dropping it off and then someone else is placing it. You're dropping it off, you're getting a sign, you're writing the name of it and who made it, and then they're going to direct you to an area to set it up someplace.
Yep.
So if you have something that needs to be covered, bring extra materials. I would recommend bring an extra bag of pine cones or leaves or something so that you can put it around the bottom and make it look more like part of the environment that it's in. But I just wanted to clarify that you're not just dropping it off and somebody else is placing it. So expect to spend a good 45 minutes, possibly an hour if you're a perfectionist, trying to get it where you want it.
Right. But it will be labeled. It will go in a specific area that will, and you'll be able to find it when you come to enjoy the whole tour in itself.
Yep.
Any other questions that you want to make sure? If you have, feel free to reach out.
I think we're good. I think we have a bunch of Fairy House experts here.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Heather. Thank you, my dear friends at Newmarket, for being hosts for today. And thank you for all of you for spending an hour just about with us on this great topic.
Have a good night.
I want to
Thank
thank Debbie and Heather for being so kind to share this with us. This is a good time for all of us to start reaching out to the kids and the parents that you see, and encourage them to start making those houses as soon as they can, and to check out the website. I'm certainly going to be doing that tomorrow. And yeah, just make, and I would recommend that you also hang up some flyers around, maybe do a book display if you feel inclined. Yeah, any other questions before we head out?
I think we're good.
All right, thank you everyone for
All
coming.
right.
Thank you.
for coming. Have a good night, everybody.
Have a good night.
Bye.
Bye-bye.